What's going on, people? Just thought I'd make a quick video in regards to racism. This was the topic I decided to discuss today. Um, Here's one advice I have for black people. Do not get into debates of race with white people. And this is the reason why I say that. See, white people and black people have completely different ideas in regards to what racism actually is. I've said that before in one of my other videos, but see, white people, they view racism as nothing more than individual acts of meanness towards members of another race. They don't necessarily view it as a system of oppression the way black people see it. And obviously, the reasons for that is because the history between the two races is very different. You know, one side benefited from it while the other side got shafted for it. So the side that benefits from it will not be very eager to embrace the notion that there is such a system of oppression, because that would put into question everything that they've accomplished, and that would put into question um, their morality. See, black people, on the other hand, are very much aware of it because they were the ones suffering. They were the ones on the other side of it. So they have very different perspectives in regards to that issue. That being said, there is something black people need to understand, especially nowadays. Racism has changed. It's not what it used to be. It's not the same way as it was in the 90s, in the 60s and 50s. Back then we had what we call overt racism. Racism was open because it was socially acceptable to be openly prejudiced. As time went on, you know, thanks to the civil rights movement and general change in attitude, racism became less and less acceptable in the society. But it never went away. Why? Because, like I said before, racism is not just animosity towards another race. It's a system created, maintained, and sustained for the benefit of a race by that race. In this case, the white race, at least in America. So what happened is they decided to go underground with it. And now what we have is covert racism. So on the outside, people might look, you know, people are never going to come out and actually call themselves racist. But behind closed doors, away from other minorities, the racism comes out. And this is very prevalent. And this is not just in America, this is in Europe too. I've seen it. So it's a very common, occurrence. Also remember that despite the fact that we have affirmative action and all those other policies, white people are still the dominant group. And they're still doing what they have to do to protect that status. So it's not as if things have necessarily changed. Things have changed to a degree. You know, the new generation is a lot more tolerant than the generation before it. But racism is very much common even in the new generation, most especially on the right side, on the conservative side of things. Although personally, I believe both sides are just as bad. My advice for black youth and for black people in general, don't focus on whether white people are racist or whether they accept you. Because at the end of the day, racism is not their problem. It's our problem. We are the ones that are trying to get up there. The system has already worked for them. They're fine. So there's no point debating with a white person about whether or not racism exists or whether or not they're racist or not. Most of the time they are. The best way to handle it is take care of your own. And this is for black people all across the world. It's not just in America. It's something, in fact, it brings to mind a quote that I read from Spike Lee. He said, "I ain't Martin Luther King. I don't have a dream. I have a plan." And that's exactly what we need. We don't need a dream anymore. Because as long as we keep trying to chase that dream, we're going to keep trying to chase acceptance into the white mist. And we don't need white acceptance. That is not what we should be fighting for. What we need is our own self-acceptance. And how do we do that? Go out there, get capital, go out there and, put some serious efforts as a group, as a race, to help your own brother and sister. Because white people, they're going to take care of their own. People have been dying in Brooklyn and Detroit and St. Louis and all those other ghettos for years, and they don't care. The only time they will react is if it affects the white community. So you have to realize that as long as you sit there waiting for white people to accept you and embrace you, you're gonna remain down. So we need to realize that the key to improving ourselves lies not in waiting, but in acting and realizing that we are on our own. White people are not going to help us. They're not with us. They're going to help themselves. Asians, they're going to help themselves. We have to help ourselves. There's a lot that could be said. There's a lot I could say on this issue, and it's too much for one video. But I'm gonna post more videos on the subject. But good examples of that will be, the Black Wall Street. The Black Wall Streets that we had back in the day. There was one in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the white establishment destroyed it back then because they felt threatened. We need to emulate that sense of hard work. We need to emulate that sense of unity to improve ourselves. And we need to reconnect to our African roots. I'm African, so I already know where I come from. I was born and raised in Europe, but I always knew where I come from in Africa. So you need to think in terms of a group, as a collective. Do what you have to do to help one another. Because white people aren't going to do it for you. Trust me. So don't argue with white people about racism, because racism is not their problem. The system benefits them. They're not going to acknowledge it the way you see it. So the best way to do it, help your own brother and sister. When you see a white person talking about black people being racist or Obama this, Obama that, keep quiet. Because the thing is, they're not arguing for an explanation. Most of the time, they're undercover racists arguing for justification. They want to have something to reinforce their beliefs and justify what they believe, even though what they believe is not always right. So there's no point arguing with them and giving them fodder. Let them believe what they want to believe, and do you. I'll post a lot more videos on this, so, come by my channel, you will see a lot of stuff. Later, people.